Your assumptions are what cause all of your circumstances, events, and psychological dramas in life. Since your assumptions have an impact on how your life will pan out, you must acknowledge that you are either your assumption's slave or their master. The key to achieving unfathomable freedom and happiness is to develop assumption control. You can gain this mastery by actively, consciously controlling your imagination. With this approach, you construct your assumptions and develop an internal image of the state and personality you desire. Concentrate on the feeling that you have already attained the mental state in which you first saw the image, and then experience yourself as if that mood has already been your world. What was once just a notion becomes what seems to be a physical reality thanks to your imagination. The secret is to keep your thoughts under control and to focus on the current work firmly and regularly. It cannot be stressed that when you create an ideal in your head and think of yourself as having already achieved it, you become identified with it and change yourself to resemble it. Think from the ideal rather than from the ideal, or vice versa. Whenever we think about a situation, it already existing as a basic possibility. Nevertheless, when we think about a condition from its perspective, it becomes overwhelmingly real. This is what the ancient sages called resting in the Lord or yielding to God's will. The fact that everyone who does so is inevitably transformed into the likeness of whatever it is that they are resting in is the one authentic test of resting in the Lord. You become what your resigned will, which is your conception of yourself, demands that you become when you approach life from the standpoint of a wish fulfilled. And anything you accept and agree to exists. If you proceed under the assumption that your request has been granted and you remain in that state, you are responsible for its effects. You are never held accountable if you don't presume your wish has been fulfilled. When you recognize the imagination's healing function, you have the answer to every problem in your hands. Every phase of your existence has been crafted by your imagination. You can only take steps to fulfill your dreams if you have a narrowed down imagination. It is both the beginning and the end of all creation. It's important to keep your thoughts in check and focus on the experience of having your wish come true repeatedly until it entirely fills your thoughts and drowns out all others. The understanding of the reality that will set you free is the best gift anyone could give you. You become liberated when you realize that you can visualize anything you desire to experience in reality. And by keeping on reflecting on this event, in the end, you'll get what you want. Your only limitation is your imagination, and you don't give enough thought to the satisfaction that comes from fulfilling your desire. When the feeling of a wish being fulfilled is not established and the imagination is not restricted, in that case, no amount of piety, invocation, or prayer will produce the intended outcome. The capacity to conjure any idea you desire, whether it be one from nature or one from your imagination, puts you in charge of your future. Stop squandering your energy, resources, and thoughts. Dreams of majesty and beauty, the forms of extinct races, voices, faces, and sounds. Everything in life must be an investment. Starting from the fourth dimension of space, the universe is infinite. We picture a lightning bolt. Some say it's just their imagination, while others say it's God. The thing that carries you across the foggy oceans to the accomplishment of your goal is the hope that your dream will come true. The assumption is important realization that comes easily and consciously. Instead of responding as though you already had what you saw, take virtue for granted if you have it. Blessed is the one who believed because what the Lord told her will be fulfilled, because the Immaculate Conception is the foundation of the Christian mysteries. They assume that their crown as a result. An immaculate idea, from a psychological perspective, is the independent emergence of a thought within your own consciousness. Giving birth to one's thought must be assumed to be the crown of the mysteries, since it is the highest application of consciousness. Every man is the Mary of the Immaculate Conception. For instance, when you experience a particular yearning, hunger, or longing, it is an immaculate conception in the sense that it is self-conceived and was not implanted in your mind by any physical person or thing. You reach a higher mental state when your dream comes true in your imagination. You also find yourself at a higher level after this assumption is realized through effort. In other words, your goal has been achieved in the real world. Your presupposition determines the path of events, since it influences all of your conscious and unconscious behaviors in that indicated direction and makes them impossible to avoid. Your assumptions are wholly responsible for writing and creating the psychological drama that is life. Learn the art of assumption, because there is no other way to create happiness for yourself than by opening your eyes and ears to the world and deceiving yourself. Due to the fact that if someone hears the term, "but it is not a door," a man will be blessed in his deed if he examines the perfect law of liberty and stays there, not just hearing it but adhering to it. He behaves like a man who sees his true self in a mirror, goes about his business, and then instantly forgets what kind of man he was. The word can be used to refer to a concept, notion, or desire in this quotation. You are misleading yourself if you simply listen and hope that your desires will be fulfilled through wishful thinking. You can't sustain your assumption if you look in the mirror and imagine yourself as that person, forgetting what kind of man you are. You can only be what you desire to be. The liberty law that permits freedom from constraints is the ideal liberty law. That is the law of assumption. The best way to uphold the law of liberty is to insist that your wish has already been fulfilled. You are not a forgetful hearer when you continually feel as though your wishes have been granted. As a result, you start working and are blessed for your good deed as a result of your desire's inevitable fulfillment. You have to abide by the assumed laws, because without application, even the greatest understanding will be insufficient. This is advantageous in the framework of the law of assumption, the principle that liberates man, as it occurs frequently on these pages. It must be spoken again, even at the risk of repetition. The earnest seeker of the truth will value this support in keeping his attention on the principle that sets him free. In the parable of the masters, the servant who did not make use of the talent placed upon him is explicitly and obviously condemned. You should follow in the footsteps of the good servant who, after discovering the key to the treasure house within yourself, multiplied the skills granted to him by many times by using his talents properly. The talent you possess is the capacity to intentionally select your assumption. The ability that is not utilized eventually deteriorates, just like an unutilized part of the body. His existence is what you must seek. It must be the cessation of wanting. Your concept of yourself can only be forced out of consciousness by another concept of yourself, by visualizing the ideal situation. You can do this until you match the ideal exactly, at which time you will have transformed into it. Active and dynamic are superior to static and passive. One becomes magnetic and infinitely more creative than everyone else when they are loved.